Okay, well, everyone, my name is Anthony Bloom, the Executive Director of the mEducation Alliance, and we are at our last session of our 4-day mEducation Alliance. We are thrilled that you're able to join us for this last session, where we're really excited to be able to introduce some of our colleagues with whom we have great relationships, and also are really excited about the activities that they've been advancing in terms of foundational literacy and numeracy. We're going to start with Carmen Strigel, who's the Director of Technology for Education and Training, and Tim Slade, the Senior Research Education Analyst at RTI. We'll then go over to Leticia Dorato, who's the Head of Global Partnerships for ProFuturo Foundation, and finally conclude with Kirsty Van Gogh, Project Manager for Neil Butcher and Associates. You still have the chat function, so we hope that this will be a participatory session to take us out of this year's symposium. So feel free to drop your questions or comments into the chat. I want to add my own particular thanks for each of the organizations for being one of the sponsors for this year's mEducation Alliance and their support in general for the mEducation Alliance activities over the years. So thank you all for your support in the spirit of the Alliance, that it's a collaborative activity. Carmen and Tim, without further ado, I'm just going to turn it over to you guys to tell us really anything that you tell us that RTI is doing will be fascinating, but I imagine that you'll be focusing on foundational literacy and numeracy. So we're going to allow you guys to kick off from here, and over to you.
Thank you. And thanks so much, Tony, and the entire mEducation Alliance team. Again, my favorite event of the year. And so excited to be able to sort of round it out together with my colleagues on this panel here at this Innovator Showcase. My colleague Tim and I are super excited to actually use the occasion of this 2021 mEducation Symposium to present to you RTI's newest technology for education, LOQUAT, which uses machine learning to support foundational learning. Next slide. Specifically, LOQUAT captures, analyzes, visualizes, and tracks classroom speech patterns. And Tim will tell you a little bit more what that exactly looks like. Just to set the stage a little bit, I am sure many of you are scratching their heads right now, wondering why in the world did we call this tool LOQUAT? Well, given the trend we have set with using a Latin word origin, tangere, to touch, for naming tangerine over 10 years ago, LOQUAT also has Latin roots. The Latin word loqui means to speak or to talk in English. So you see the connection right there. And we're still working out branding. So this is a little bit initial efforts, what you see on the screen here. But you can expect, again, something lovely that represents this absolutely delicious fruit. And my parents are very happy that 5 years of investment in my Latin skills is being put to use. Next slide. Now, why have we developed this tool? Well, it's no secret to any of you attending this symposium that there are just far too many children that are, even after years of schooling, still struggling to perform even basic measures of foundational numeracy and reading, two-digit subtraction, or reading a simple sentence. In 2019, our friends at the World Bank published a blog post titled "The Education Crisis: Being in School is Not the Same as Learning," really highlighting this issue. And that was even before COVID, that kept over 1 billion children out of school for months at a time. Now, in this blog, the World Bank authors raise actually 2 important points that we have similarly experienced in our education work and research. First, there is remarkably little knowledge about what teachers are actually doing in the classroom, in their lesson, and how they're teaching. And this is an important problem because teachers are pretty critical to student learning. So we really need to shed more light on what is happening in classrooms on a regular basis, and not just during a model lesson that is being put on when there is an external observer coming to the school. Next slide. Second, the blog highlights the importance of personalized instruction with prompt feedback for students to learn. Now, in the past year especially, and showcased at this symposium just at the session this morning, personalized learning tools have gained great momentum. Yet, where is the same support for teachers? How are their needs for ongoing support and feedback being met. We designed Loquat taking research and a range of conceptual frameworks into account, including this one from Gusky. Along those lines, we stress that teacher training, as you all know, is really just one stage in a teacher's learning journey. Training happens early in this process, but teachers are really more likely to listen, to interrogate, and to really grapple with ideas and new strategies after they have already seen the thing that they were trained on to actually work when they're back in their schools and they've had a chance to try it out and teach on a daily basis. And as a former teacher myself, I can speak from experience in that regard. Now, many of our education programs around the world are really tying in coaching at this stage. And this ongoing support and feedback to teachers is really absolutely critical at this stage. And so Tim will now talk to you a little bit more about how Loquat can play a role at that specific intersection. Tim?
Thanks, Carmen, appreciate it. So as anyone who has tried to administer a coaching program can tell you, coaching is a major challenge. But the teachers we work with have a thirst for support to do their jobs more effectively. For instance, these two teachers made their way more than 58 kilometers from their school to our training workshop on foot. We can give these folks the tools they need to help themselves. This is where Loquat comes in. We wanted to provide teachers with a tool they could use on their own to get concrete, actionable feedback about their lesson delivery. We decided to focus on talk time for three main reasons. First, the technology to detect speech is extremely mature, having been worked on since the 1950s by the likes of Bell Labs, IBM, and more recently by groups like Google, Apple, and Amazon. Second, who gets to speak in the classroom and how much is a feature of teacher training and professional development programs that focus on increasing active learning, student participation, educational equity, etc. And third, there are few existing tools that provide concrete insight into talk time. So we would be meeting a concrete need in many countries. Using Loquat is easy. First, the teacher captures audio from a lesson. It can be video too, as long as there's an audio track. Second, they open the upload interface and assign a label to the lesson that will help them identify it later. Third, they specify what their talk time goal for the lesson was and how much time they think they actually spent talking. And we use this later as part of the reflection process. Then the teacher chooses their file and uploads it for analysis. Once the algorithms have done their thing, the teacher gets back the analysis. There are 6 core analyses that Loquat presents, both singly and in a dashboard format. We'll use the example of the Loquat speaker wheel to illustrate the components of each analysis. First, there's a data visualization. We developed it to be responsive to changes in screen or browser window size. Second, we provide a prose caption interpreting the graphic to help build teachers' intuition for graphical representations of data. Third, we provide prompts for the teacher to reflect on, and you'll note that the bottom one links back to the teacher's input at the point of upload. Finally, we provide additional resources for the teacher to do further self-study if they so desire. Now, once the teacher has uploaded a few recordings and generated several analyses, they can track their progress over time. In their portfolio view, teachers can see whether they're getting closer to achieving the goals they've set for themselves. So how does the tool work? Well, at a high level, there are 3 key steps and then some post-processing. First, we take as our input a normalized audio file. We feed it to a type of machine learning tool called a neural network that has been trained to differentiate adult speech from children's speech, male speech from female speech, etc. And this generates for us a series of labels. At the same time, we also feed that audio file to a different neural network that's been trained to differentiate speech from sounds which are not speech, but might be confused for it. Examples include various kinds of music, background noise, animals, etc. We then effectively use the outputs from that second neural network as a mask for the outputs of the first neural network. This lets each tool play to its strengths and results in better overall performance. So there's basically 3 key takeaways for educators and education researchers listening to this presentation. First, we're holding up a mirror to the teacher's lesson delivery. We want them to understand who talked, when, and how much. Those can be sources of powerful insight if you master them. Second, we're facilitating self-reflection. We're not prescribing a single target. In fact, there is no single talk time target that would be appropriate across grades, subjects, and lesson types, such as review versus introduction of new material. And third, while we obviously haven't tested it on every language in the world, the model was designed to be language agnostic. It was developed on a wide range of languages, including several indigenous and minority languages from multiple continents. It will only become more powerful as we incorporate more audio recordings from a variety of languages and use them to retrain our models. And with that, we're done. Thank you for your attention. We're happy to take questions here or offline. Our contact information is on the screen. Carmen and I are pretty easy to find. Thanks, everyone.
Well, Carmen and Tim, thanks so much. Really exciting, not the least of which is I did not realize the origin of all the years that you presented, Carmen, with about tangerine. That was the first that I saw. You always opportunity to learn something new about the Latin roots. Carmen and Tim, I just think it's a great example of the attention that you pay for the teacher's own professional development as a self-reflective tool and device. Let me just take a question. I see that Jack's posted a question. Maybe we'll just take a question, and if others have it, if we have time afterwards.
Yeah.
Can you guys see Jack's question in the chat?
This is distinguishing praise from other kinds of speech. Yeah, so one of the things, Jack, that makes the approach we're taking to Loquat essentially language agnostic is that we are, at this point, explicitly not trying to tackle the semantic content of the speech. So we're not trying to take some audio signal, turn it into words, and then interpret the meaning of the words and then respond accordingly. That is a task you can do, but it depends on having a really robust language model for whatever language you're looking at. And that would limit us essentially to colonial languages, major European languages. It really wouldn't fit for a lot of the work we're doing in the context that we care about. So we choose to essentially treat speech as speech and treat it like a black box and pay attention to who's doing it and when. And the questions of semantic content and the emotional tenor of the speech, all of which are things that you could do powerful things with, we're leaving those for a little bit later because that piece of the technology is not yet there and would be much more expensive and time consuming to develop.
I also see another question from you, Tony, around sort of the audio device and the quality pickup. And I'm going to couple that also, Melody, with a little bit of a response to your question. So we collected a lot of classroom audio data in the Philippines. Any of you who has worked there, particularly in the urban areas, there's a lot going on in the classroom. So we did try with a variety of devices placed at a variety of sort of locations in the classrooms. So sort of any rollout of this obviously has to have, at minimum some degree of user testing in the specific context. So we can give some recommendations based on where we have collected these audio data already, including in the Philippines, for example, as well as elsewhere. But it's probably going to be a little bit context specific and something that can also be by the teacher done given, do they have a tin roof? Do they have another roof? Are they closer to a window environment, to a bathroom? So the specific classroom will play a role, but generally speaking, some of the simple Android phones that we have tried with were pretty decent in picking up audio quality good enough for the algorithm and the Loquat to do its job. Tim, do you want to add anything on that?
No, I think the fact that we're using masking to separate speech from not speech helps get around some of the limitations that come from just treating it as an undifferentiated stream of audio. That's really an important piece. And so that helps kind of offset some of the challenges you get from using a single source of audio. The other thing is that actually the sensors and microphones to do this kind of thing are commoditized at this point. They're extraordinarily cheap. And so if you wanted to move from a single device to something more directional, the hardware is easy to find and deal with. It's much more complex than on the back end trying to assemble that stuff.
So go ahead, Carmen.
No, thank you, Tony, and Judith and Jack, to your points in the chat. Actually, we have predominantly been looking at this initially and sort of collecting the data, etc., from the early classrooms, because a lot of the challenge that we're facing is that indeed we're having a reading lesson, and the only person who's speaking is the teacher. And their self-ability to really monitor how much they speak vis-a-vis, you know, the sort of choral singing that we kind of see a lot going on in these classrooms, versus actually individual children reading in a reading classroom, is shockingly low in terms of the latter taking place. So the tool is really meant to empower teachers themselves to sort of help them calibrate and optimize the time that children interact with text, even in the very early grades.
Great questions. You know, it sort of makes me think of a number of years ago, I was part of a review panel for Health and Human Services that was reviewing applications for a prize call they had for the 30 million word gap. And sort of the audio devices that they used to sort of monitor in some respects how much dialogue that parents had in their households with their children. And so it just, again, really makes me think of how important that is to be able to capture what that actual dialogue is. So very exciting. We'll look forward to being able to share information about Loquat with other audiences. So Carmen and Tim, there's still questions coming in the chat. I invite you to continue that. And then we're just going to move on to our next Innovator Showcase. Thanks again for your contributions to this year's symposium. I'd now like to invite Leticia Dorato, who's the head of global partnerships for ProFuturo Foundation. Leticia, over to you.
Thank you, Tony. Good morning and good evening. I'm going to share my screen because I'm going to introduce to you our digital education program. One of my colleagues was this morning in the symposium talking to you about our specific resources about mathematics. That's one of the things that we are launching this year. But I'm going to introduce to you the whole program. So hold on. I'm trying. It's because this is not working. See? I don't know if you can.
We can see
my screen now.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah. Sorry, can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Ah, okay, thank you. So yes, briefly, I'm going to tell you about our digital education program. So because I don't know if all of us knows about it. So, well, ProFuturo is a digital education program that is promoted by Telefónica Foundation and La Caixa Foundation, which mission is to enable educators and learners develop 21st century skills to address the challenges of the digital era. Just a little bit about our funders. This Telefónica Foundation and La Caixa Foundation are two Spanish foundations that they joined their forces together because they had this like long expertise in education. So they joined their forces to do something together to launch this digital education program to to work for equal opportunities and improve quality education. Right now, we are working in 40 countries. We launched this program 5 years ago. And with all this expertise, right now we are in 40 countries and benefiting nearly 20 million children and more than 900,000 teachers. Well, Carmen just told us just a few minutes ago about like this scenario that we have now. Probably these figures are not right now like the ones, but yes, World Bank told us about this learning crisis that well, it's still 258 million students are out of school now. Then the 53% of 10-year-old children in low and middle income countries cannot read and understand a short paragraph. And this figure rises over the 80% in the poorest countries. Well, we all know about EdTech, but I want just to raise these three things that offers and the EdTech that we can have this opportunity now to reimagine education. And I think it's very important to highlight that the learning adaptation that the EdTech enables, like right now, we can, we know how the students learn, when, and which activities are they doing. Then the EdTech elevates the role of the teacher, because right now and through the EdTech, they can do their own activities and personalize the activities that the children are doing, and it gives us continuous feedback and learning. So going more in depth of what we offer, these are our levers that we adapt depending in the country that we work. We have this global framework of competencies. We have analyzed the ones that I think we all know, the European ones, the UNESCO one, and we have our own global framework. It's a proposal. You have there our website that you can have a look. And it's a framework competencies for this digital age. And it is from the point of view of educators and learners. Then we have this blended teacher training that I think it's the key of our success, because this blended teacher training with the support that we give on the ground, I think it's very important. Well, I think, Carmen, you were saying before about the importance of coaching and to support the teachers. Then we have some selected digital classroom experience for the children. We are focusing primary students, and we have it for off and online environments, and it is adapted and depending in the level of the teachers, the expertise that they have. And then we have these learning assessments of the level of the teachers, their technopedagogical appropriation, and the students' learning. And then the continuous feedback from the local entities that we have on the ground. So, well, just a little bit about our teacher professional development, that it's based in this cascade training model. And these are the main characteristics that it's ongoing, depending in the level of the teachers. Then it's always linked to the classroom, because we want to be innovative and we want to introduce the technology in the classroom, but always linked to their planning. That's one of the things that the coaches on the ground do. It's align what we have to the local planning in each of the schools that we are working. Then it's personalized and progressive, depending in the level of the teachers, and we do this coaching and mentoring with them. Right now, we have this offer. We have more than 160 courses and 2,800 hours of training in these 4 languages. We have this platform and that allows the teachers on the ground upload their own content. So we have more local contents, but mainly we work in these 4 languages. And this is our categories. We work the innovation, the using of ICTs, computational thinking and robotics. And then what we call for further learning, it's some things like things that the teachers needs to know for this new digital era. Things like life skills, citizenship, and things like that. Then we have these digital resources for children. Right now we have more than 1,600 hours, and we work with the children in these themes. That's mathematics, literacy, then computational thinking, technology, and then all the life skills category. How we implement our program, we have 3 types of implementation. We have this massive open framework that is used normally in the online environments. Then we have the comprehensive framework that is used in the offline environments, and we adapt what we are doing for the refugee context. We are working in these countries in Lebanon, Jordan, Malawi, Rwanda, and Tanzania. So we adapt what we are doing to the emergency context. And I just want to highlight that what we do in all these contexts are personalize the training always, then the support that we do, it's key, and all the monitoring and evaluation that give us feedback. I just want to briefly tell you something about our monitoring and evaluation system that we're implementing right now. We have this dashboard that we know how our children are and the teachers, how they improve and how they learn and how they appropriate technology. But right now we are in these 2 first stages. Right now we are just descriptive and diagnostic. And in the following years, we want to see, it's just to know how the numbers, so many descriptives right now. So we want to be and see what will happen and what to do to make it happen. That I think that's very key at this moment. And it's everything that I want to share with you.
Leticia, that was perfect, and also left us some time for maybe a question or 2 as well. So any questions from any of our participants about what they've just heard about ProFuturo? Please drop it in your chat. Leticia, I'm going to throw one out to you. How do organizations that want to partner with ProFuturo, what type of collaborations are you receptive to? You know, anyone that may be watching this as well, how would they approach you? What type of partnership might that look like?
Well, we have different type of collaboration depending in, we used to work with the ministries of education in every country that we work. Then we have implementing partners. Then we have education sector partners. So depending in the type of collaboration, we are open to anything, and because we want to scale what we are doing, so we are open to any collaboration and to analyze any type of agreements.
And from your colleagues earlier, and then Leticia, the countries that you're already in, are you looking to go deeper in your existing countries, or are you looking to expand to other countries?
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in these following years, we want to do both because we want to be, we want to strengthen what we are doing after COVID-19, and well, the schools are opening now, so we need to analyze what we are going to find. So depending in what we find and how we manage all this like 2-year gap in some of the environments that we
Instruction.
are working. We need to do the diagnosis of that and then see if we can implement in other countries, but I think we need to strengthen what we are doing right now.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Leticia, thanks again for this great presentation, but the relationship with ProFuturo that we've appreciated for how many years ProFuturo has been featured at our event, and the opportunity to continue that relationship. So appreciate your comments, and we'll forward you any additional questions. What I'd like to do is now turn it to our last innovator in our Innovator Showcase, Kirsty Van Gogh, project manager with Neil Butcher and Associates. Kirsty, we've kept you busy this week throughout the week as well, including today. I would love to give you an opportunity to tell folks more about Neil Butcher and Associates. So over to you.
Thanks, Tony. I don't have a presentation, but I thought I would just give a few highlights of things we do at NBA, things that interest us, and we're open for collaborations. And I've got a colleague on the call who will drop in some links, just if anybody is interested, you can get a little bit more information. So NBA we're a small organization based in Johannesburg, South Africa, and we work with, it's basically our mission to contribute to improving education systems, particularly in the developing world, advancing open, sustainable, and cost-effective solutions to educational challenges. So at the beginning of the week, we had a policy clinic with a few decision makers from, I think it was about 5 countries were represented, and we were discussing how we can, create policies that enable open education and the use of open education resources, because that is obviously really, really important to us at NBA. From my point of view, there was Tony had mentioned a little bit earlier that I participated in a panel discussion earlier today, and that was through our work in early literacy. So NBA has a grant from the Hewlett Foundation, and we've used this, I think it's been about 5 or 6 years now, to it's been subsequent grants, but to explore the potential for open licensing to enhance the availability of mother tongue language reading resources, mostly in the global south. So we've kind of continued this work with partners across Africa. We've been doing some research, we've done some case studies. We have worked with a lot of publishers and publishing organizations. We're currently working with the African Libraries and Informations Association, AFLIA, and this work through our early literacy grants is mainly based on the belief that it's essential to ensure the voices of the global south are integral to the discourse on open education, on OER planning, and the funding of early literacy initiatives. We're also currently working with UNESCO to support the implementation of the UNESCO OER recommendation. So we've got a few activities going on there. We're trying to look at how this can be monitored, what are the key indicators to see how governments are being able to implement OERs, what governments are doing, what researchers are doing in this space, and just look at what can be tracked, where we can, how we can see things are happening, and then also just create that network, create that space for communities to come together to be able to understand what works, what doesn't work, what works in some situations but not others, particularly obviously in the African context, because that's where we're working a lot, but a few of my colleagues do work in South Asia. Neil Butcher and Associates does a lot of work with the World Bank in a variety of countries. We also do, I'm currently working with the Moleskine Foundation on implementing their Wiki Africa education project, and that's getting young Africans to be able to write content in their mother tongue on Wikipedia, because there's just not much representation of Africa especially on Wikipedia, but just in general on global knowledge networks. I think the other big projects that NBA works on that may be of interest to some people are, we support the South African Department of Health with its Knowledge Hub, which is an online learning portal for healthcare workers. Obviously, during COVID, it's been really important. We've been rolling out training for vaccinators. It's a central place for resources, just to be able to share that knowledge, share information, and make things as accessible as possible without unnecessary barriers. We supported the Department of Higher Education and Training in South Africa to implement an electrician program where all the resources are openly licensed resources. They're all available on a platform supplied by the Department of Higher Education and Training. And we've worked to make these openly licensed so that they can be translated, they can be adapted. It's not at a massive cost to anybody that's accessing them. And this is all through funding from the departments. And then, essentially, we just want to kind of make knowledge as accessible as possible, and make sure that, when we are creating these resources, we, as we share our resources, we are keeping in line with what we say we do in our projects. I think that's a really important thing, being able to communicate what we do so that people can find solutions, and that we are, we're open to helping others create content that actually does incorporate more openness, developing policies that incorporate openness rather than more policies that are making education systems more closed. We want to empower educators and give them the tools to be able to do their work effectively, particularly in this kind of context we find ourselves in now, where there's a lot more work going on online. If you are interested or would like to know more, please drop me an email. I'll put my email address in the chat, or just have a look at what's going on the NBA website. So thank you so much, Tony, for having us. It's our first year being part of the mEducation Alliance. So I'm really happy to be here. We're learning a lot and we're meeting lots of people. I see a few people on the call that were part of our last session, and I look forward to connecting. I see I have got some emails and I will be responding to those soon. Thank you so much.
That's terrific, Kirsty. Yeah, and it's surprising that this is your first engagement. I feel like I've known Neil which I have from the time that I was living in Zimbabwe for many, many years, but I continue to be impressed at the diversity of the activities, Kirsty, that you've just talked about, not exclusively in education. Kirsty, I'm going to take advantage of, as a facilitator, inviting those that may have questions, put it in the chat. I see Leanne's putting a number of stuff. What got you the most excited? What was a particular activity you guys were working in that you were like, this is really cool? Is there anything that you can think of that that you were working on specifically in the last year? Sorry to put you on the spot.
So I think in the last year, the things that I've got most excited about, I mentioned the Wiki Africa education program, and that's just been very different for me. I didn't know the world of Wikipedia. I'm now a Wikipedia editor. I get to take part in these really cool events where the Moleskine Foundation takes these cultural elements and make sure that it's a cultural experience, being able to get these young people writing content on Wikipedia. And then I think the other thing I'm really excited about was our work with AFLIA, which was in my presentation a few hours ago. We did a survey and we got feedback from over 400 libraries across Africa on what they're doing in the early literacy space. So of course, my big love is early literacy. So yeah.
Well, that's really exciting. And Kirsty, unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend that because I was bopping around to different gallery walks, but I believe it was recorded. And again, one of the values of the mEducation Alliance is simply just to share the great works of the organizations such as yours. and have just really appreciated including your referencing the OER policy workshop that we did at the beginning of the week, and that we'll be continuing that as an ongoing series as well. I'm going to invite back all of our presenters or innovators to put their cameras on at this point, and want to thank Carmen and Tim and Leticia and Kirsty for rounding out, perfect to conclude the event with their Innovator Showcase. Just of the great works that your institutions have been doing, and look forward to your ongoing participation in ongoing Alliance related activities and your own partnership activities with the mEducation Alliance. So I'm just going to do my own little round hand, and other folks invite them as well to also include their own little emoticons or whatever. And this is a wrap, just for those who have joined us for the very end of the symposium. As Carmen knows from having attended every one of our symposia, and our new colleagues, that this may be the first time, every year we try to iterate on the symposium experience. This is our second virtual symposium event, which has its advantages and disadvantages. But the advantage, I would say, that it brings folks from around the world that typically might not be able to fly to Washington, D.C. We're really excited that we received so many pre-recordings. And then, as I may have noted to some of our innovators in the room before this, is that we'll be doing a series of post-symposium events, highlighting presentations, pre-recordings, and to a fun activity that we want to attract additional attention to your great works. So look out for that as we sort of develop that and launch that in the next month. For those that are joining us towards the end, we again appreciate your participation. We love to hear about new partnerships that were knit. We see a lot of them in the chats with people introducing themselves to each other. So please let us know if there was particular aha moments or partnerships that were created at this symposium. Share it with us. That gives us some good feedback in planning the future events. So I want to also invite Nicole and all our elves to come on board. Just to put their screens on, whoever's in sort of the background, if we could do that as well. I want to thank the whole team that assembled the symposium this year. Nicole as our Director of Engagement, Scott Isbrand, with whom we've worked for a number of months. We have Lauren, I don't know who else is joining us as well from it, but obviously you know how much time it takes to organize an event like this, and it was several months of dedicated contributions. So I want to thank Nicole, the entire team as well, for the great support. Yay, thanks. Nicole, is there anything that you'd like to say as the orchestrator of this year's event and all the hours that you put in? A special thanks to you. Anything particular you'd like to add?
No, I just want to thank everyone who participated in some capacity, whether you're a presenter or attendee. I think this was a great event, and I just love all the connections that are made from it, and looking forward to next year. So let's hit the ground running, Tony, and start planning.
That sounds great. And Carmen, just to put you on the spot, I know that you guys are hosting the eFruit reception just afterwards. So do you want to invite people to take advantage of all the eFruits that Carmen?
Absolutely. And as in typical Tony manner, they're very light in calorie as they're virtual e-fruits. They make great fruit salad. They also make great cocktails. And since I'm German, I don't give a quibble about 5 p.m. deadlines.
Okay,
so
perfect.
You all go and enjoy.
Well, great. Well, that's a wrap. I want to thank everyone, and we'll see you soon. Have a great rest of your day wherever you're joining us from, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.